Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Everyday EDC. My name is Tyler, and today we have... the hell? Cut. Today we have the steel wheel Sedge. So, I initially got the Sedge, and I really wanted to love it, but we're so used to these ball bearings nowadays that the action on this isn't the best. Well, after fiddling with it for a couple days, trying to fall in love with it, it got worse. Not only did it get worse, I started to establish some blade play. So there will be a video on what happened to this coming out afterwards and how I fixed it. So I was able to fix it. Currently there is no blade play, up and down, left and right. The blade centering, let's see if you guys can get a good look at it. Right there, perfect. The blade centering's just great. So this is a tumbled finish. It's got this black stonewash going on, which is really nice. It is a pretty darn slicey blade. I'm going to call this a drop point. It's a very aggressive drop point. A very pointy tip. The pocket clip isn't really a deep carry. You still have this much of your pocket sticking out of it. Not a huge deal. This isn't a very large knife. It is ambidextrous on both sides. Usually that's what ambidextrous means. It has G10 scales with recessed liners that are slightly milled out for weight relieving. And this cool red aluminum backspacer with this lanyard hole in the back of it. Let's jump into some specs of this guy, and then we'll kind of continue as we usually do. So the steel wheel Sedge is coming in at about 7 3/4 inches. Yeah, a little in between 3/4 and 7 1/2. The blade length is coming in at about 3 1/4, and you're getting the same cutting edge out of it. It's a little bit more than 3 1/4. 3 and what would that be? 2/5. You're looking at about 3 2/5 there, and about 3 1/4 cutting edge. What's the weight on this guy? Well, I'm glad you asked. Jump right here to my handy dandy scale. Perfect. You guys can see it on there. 2.97 ounces. Very lightweight. Not bug out territory, but it's pretty darn good. One thing I didn't check. So the blade's coming in about 3 1/4. I think this is where this thing kind of shines as far as... It's about 4 1/2 inches in total length without the blade being out. So you're not getting the full length of your blade, but, you know, blade to handle ratio, but it's still pretty darn good. The blade length to weight ratio is there, though, for you guys. What am I missing out on here? Let's get my handy dandy micrometer. Check this blade stock. It's relatively thin. Blade stock is coming in at about 115 thousandths. That's pretty darn good. Let's check this behind the edge thickness. This is where this guy does pretty well. The behind the edge thickness is coming in right around 20 thousandths. Let's check up here, see if there's any difference. And as a sanity check for myself. Up there, yeah, it's about 15 to 20 thousandths. In between that mark. Let's check the overall height in your pocket on this guy. Coming in at right at 1/2 inch, excluding the pocket clip, so that's pretty good. The overall, that was the width. The overall height of this guy's coming in at 130 thousandths, pretty good. Comparing that to the Spyderco Manix 2, which is coming in at 1.74. This is 1.3, so it's not a very tall knife in your pocket. All right, let's get to some size comparisons. Here it is first against the Rat Model 1 and the Rat Model 2, which, whatever. It's about the same size as Rat Model 2, slightly longer, and it's slightly longer than Rat Model 2 and a little bit shorter than the Rat Model 1. Your feldspar sandwich. Let's see what we got going on here. So once again, it's kind of in the middle ground, right? It's a little bit smaller than your feldspar, but barely. And slightly longer than your mini feldspar. Check it up here against your Civivi sandwich. Your Civivi Dogma. And then your Civivi Odium. As you can see, a little bit longer than both, but not by much. Well, a little bit longer than the Dogma, much longer than the Odium. All these names. So here is your Spyderco Mannix 2 and your Spyderco Astute. As you can see, the Mannix 2 and this are about the same length. That's the only thing they have in common, plus the opening hole, but they're about the same length. And your Astute is coming in at a little bit shorter. All right, so what are my thoughts on this guy? As I said, after using it for a little while, we had a little bit of some blade play, and because we're so accustomed now to these bearings, the action is nowhere near what a knife with bearings would be. Is that a bad thing? No, because a knife with bearings, you're going to get a lot of gunk and gum in there, and it can catch dirt, and then you're going to feel it gritty, and it's going to annoy the hell out of you. This thing's just kind of like a smooth phosphor bronze opening, and you can flick it open. And it flicks open just fine, makes a pretty solid thwack when it opens, but you're not going to be able to shake it closed. My experience with this is that the washer, condensing the other video that I did, the washer on the inside of the pivot sticks out. Let's see if we can see it. Really can't. But it sticks out by just a tiny bit from the blade tang. So when you tighten this pivot down, you have to be really, really careful because you can smash that corner of the washer, and I think that's what happened. I didn't think I did it by tightening it down, but that's the only thing that makes sense. I think I pinched that corner, and it created like a burr on that washer, a very visible burr, which caused one side of the blade to erode quicker than the other as I'm fidgeting with it, which created room for blade play, and it created a really bad action. Is that a fault in this knife? I don't think so. You just have to be careful. That phosphor bronze is not going to be as hard as steel, and you're going to be able to smash it pretty easily. I was able to fix it using a little bit of sandpaper, cleanup, all that, so not a big deal. And the action, I really can't compare against a ball bearing knife. It just doesn't make sense to compare it, except for the fact that you're not buying this for action. This is going to be a straightforward worker. The overall design flow of this looks pretty darn nice. The way it's just kind of the curvature here is, but let me show you. In hand, there's really only one spot for your hand to go. And yeah, you can get your whole hand on there. It feels a little squished, but you're comfortable. Now, remember, I have skinny fingers, long skinny fingers. Those of you with them sausages ain't gonna be able to work. I don't think this is a knife for somebody who has a little bit thicker of a hand. Take that for what you will. It's not meant for somebody with a little bit bigger, unless you're going to throw a lanyard on it and go. But there's only one spot for your hand to go into. If I were to rank the ergonomics, I would give this maybe a 5.5 to 6. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst. This D2 steel, as usual, is pretty good. I don't think I've heard any issues from steel will. The super slicey blade, super slicey blade. The pivot is a D-shaped pivot, so it is captive, which is also nice. We have some nice chamfering around the edges here. It's not really contoured, it's slightly contoured. It's nothing you're really going to notice, but this really nice chamfering here kind of makes up for it. Now, do I wish, as usual, that I could choke up on this right here? Yeah, I think I do. This feels pretty good, except for the fact that I'm cutting into my finger right now. No. But that would be nice if they put a forward finger choil, but then again, they should put a forward finger choil on everything, but if you put a forward finger choil on there, you're going to have just a thin piece of metal right here. That's going to be weird. So I get it why they didn't. Stainless steel liners. The lockup's coming in at, I don't know, name your percentage. I don't know how they come up with those percents. I'm going to say 5,000%. Lockup's at 5,000%. It's pretty good. 5,000 is a big number. We got this red aluminum backspacer here, which is an awesome accent color for what we got going on. Very, very cool. The pivot is coming in as a T8. Great. Unfortunately, you have 6 total screws on the body, plus the 2 screws on the pocket clip that are T6. Not a huge deal. I did strip a bit coming out of this, but I think I had a really, really crappy bit. So watch your bits. It did not strip the screw, it stripped the bit. I think for some reason they made the bits out of aluminum, which makes a total amount of sense. As I said, the action, pretty darn good. It's not your fidget-friendly knife, but you can fidget with it if you like to do this. It's comfortable. For $60, what are my thoughts on this guy? It's a working knife. I appreciate the design. I appreciate where it's going. I love the smooth G10 texturing, kind of like a wood grain wannabe pattern that they got going on there. That's pretty cool. The pocket clip, but the way it's angled really does contour with your pocket. This reminds me of a knife that I can hand to my dad and say, here's your present, go to town, and he's not going to have any issues. It's going to be something super familiar for him, and it's going to get the job done. With that phosphor bronze washers that are in there with smooth action, but it's going to be tight, but you're not going to have to worry about the gumminess on the ball bearings. Pretty cool. Is this worth $60? I'm pausing because I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's in the eye of the beholder. I wanted to, when I first saw this online, kind of put this up as a budget knife of the year, but to me it doesn't make that. I don't think that Steel Will made this budget knife of the year material. I think this is a very cool knife, and it's a very, very slicey, functional blade. Coming in at just under 20 thousandths behind the edge. Full flat grind with a slight swedge going across the whole top, but it's damn near a full flat grind coming down, which is very nice. It allows it to come down very thin, and it starts out at 115 thousandths for the blade stock anyways. In your pocket, it's not a pocket dominator, and overall, there's not much to complain about this knife, but there's also not much other than the kind of cool aesthetic look it has to really boast on. Very slicey blade, and that's pretty much all I can say. Great job. Good job. The phosphor bronze action is good. You're not getting the bearings. And I love, once again, the design flow here. I don't know if it's supposed to have the blade tang have they probably should have put it slightly smaller washers in it, right? Because I wish you guys could see this. Let's see if I can. It's difficult. I don't think you guys can. I should have used Jake's Olight on this. But it's coming out by, like, if you imagine, 3 pieces of hair pushed together, that's how wide it's coming out. It's just the corner of a circle, which makes no sense. You get what I'm trying to say there, though. I don't know that it's supposed to do that, because you can very easily put wrong pressure on that pivot and pinch that, because I don't crank my pivots down at all. So I don't know that that's a design flaw. I don't really know what that is. If it was me, I would have just given it slightly smaller in diameter washers. With the ambidextrous, that's nice. What I don't like I said, are those phosphor bronze. I don't like having 3 screws here to try and take it apart, because after having taken it apart, it's annoying. The pocket clip is kind of just meh. And it's not deep carry, which, again, take it for what you will, not a huge deal, but there's nothing exciting. In my opinion, like I said, there is nothing exciting about this knife. I wanted to be excited because I love the aesthetics, which is what drew me to it, but usually when you get that, you find the knife and you find something more that you love. And I just didn't. I didn't find anything I hated. I mean, I'll hang on to this knife for a while. Maybe probably not. I'll probably sell it, but I'll use it. And I enjoy using it, but it's not something that kind of ruffles my feathers, you know what I mean? Other than that, guys, that's all I got for you today. I'm going to keep this short and sweet as much as possible, even though it's my typical review time. And this is your Steel Will Sedge. My name is Tyler. This is Everyday EDC. You guys stay sharp, stay safe, have a great freaking day.